I have something to say about that. The screen behind the altar lit up with everything, and the whole church went dead silent as the first image appeared showing Julian and Nina kissing in our bedroom. I walked down the aisle toward the parking lot, while behind me the church exploded into chaos with people gasping and shouting, and Julian's voice cracking as he tried to explain. My legs felt like jelly, but I kept walking straight through the heavy wooden doors into the bright sunlight where Tara caught up with me and wrapped her arms around me so tight I could barely breathe. You did it. You actually did it. She kept saying it over and over while guests started pouring out of the church with their phones already recording everything. My whole body was shaking now that the adrenaline was wearing off, but I'd never felt more free in my entire life. 2 hours later, I was at the reception venue sitting at the head table with 3 champagnes already down and working on my 4th when the venue coordinator rushed over with this huge grin on her face. She leaned in close and told me the hotel had just called because Julian and Nina were trying to check in with their reservation, but all their credit cards kept getting declined. Margaret appeared at my elbow with her own champagne glass raised high and this look of pure satisfaction on her face. She told me she'd had her banker freeze all of Julian's accounts an hour ago and asked if the apartment lease was in my name only. When I nodded, she smiled even wider and said good, because he could find somewhere else to live now. Becca showed up with a plate of salmon and vegetables and pushed it in front of me saying I needed to eat something. While I picked at the fish, she pulled out her phone and showed me how the video of the ceremony was already blowing up on TikTok with over 500 shares in just 2 hours. People were commenting things like queen behavior and this is how you handle cheaters, and someone had already made it into a meme with dramatic music. The reception turned into this weird celebration where everyone kept buying me drinks and telling me how brave I was, while Julian's family members kept coming up to apologize for his behavior. His cousin told me she'd always known he was trash, and his aunt slipped me an envelope with $5,000 in cash saying it was the least she could do. The DJ played Before He Cheats, and the whole room sang along while I stood on a chair waving my bouquet like a victory flag. The next morning, I woke up in my apartment still wearing my wedding dress with mascara all over my pillow and my phone buzzing nonstop on the nightstand. There were 247 missed calls from Julian and 89 from Nina, plus hundreds of texts I didn't even want to read. I blocked both their numbers with one swipe, then ordered pancakes and bacon from my favorite breakfast place and had them deliver it right to my door. While I sat there eating pancakes in my wrinkled wedding dress, I looked around the apartment at all of Julian's stuff still sitting there like nothing had happened. His gaming setup took up half the living room, and his closet was full of designer clothes he'd bought with my money, and his stupid guitar collection covered an entire wall. I texted Becca asking if she wanted to help me redecorate, and she responded immediately with 20 exclamation points and a bunch of fire emojis. We spent the rest of the day boxing up his crap and taking pictures of me throwing his stuff into garbage bags while still wearing my wedding dress, because why not? 3 days later, the moving company I'd hired showed up with a huge truck and started loading all of Julian's belongings while I supervised from the couch drinking coffee in my pajamas. Julian showed up halfway through with a police officer claiming I was stealing his property and demanding they stop loading the truck immediately. I calmly showed the officer the lease with only my name on it, plus all the receipts proving I'd paid for literally everything in the apartment, including his precious gaming computer. The officer looked at the paperwork, then looked at Julian and told him there was nothing he could do since everything legally belonged to me. Julian completely lost it and started screaming that I was a vindictive bitch and that I'd ruined his life while the movers just kept loading boxes into the truck. The officer warned him to calm down or he'd be arrested for disturbing the peace, but Julian kept yelling and calling me every name in the book. I stood up from the couch and walked over to him and said actually, he'd ruined his own life and I just made sure everyone knew about it. His face turned purple and he tried to lunge at me, but the officer grabbed him and told him to leave immediately or he'd be going to jail. That evening while I was eating Chinese takeout and watching Netflix, my work supervisor called and said she'd seen the video like everyone else in Minneapolis. She told me to take the rest of the week off with full pay, and when I came back we needed to discuss the promotion I'd applied for because she liked employees who could execute a plan. I nearly choked on my lo mein when she said she was fast-tracking my application and the raise would be retroactive to this month. A week after the wedding that wasn't Nina's Pilates studio posted a statement on their Instagram saying